Happy days, and here we are with the amazing, the wonderful Wynford Dore. Now, I heard Wynford talk today, an expert in ADHD. Am I saying that correctly?
ADHD, yeah.
ADHD. And I tell you, here's the thing. I almost lost you because you had to go, but you know, not getting the opportunity to interview you today would have been disastrous for myself. And here's why: is because in your talk you spoke about how I'm going to say out of the norm way of thinking. I'm just going to present it in that way right now. That doesn't fit into, you know, regular academic structure, and how those young people and all people kind of get lost into a corner of their own place, and that leads to suicide attempt, leads to loneliness. And I found myself frantically welling up listening to conversation because that was my schooling. I tried taking my life twice through my school days, and I'm not saying these things to feel sorry for listeners. You know, it's just fact. They didn't have a name for me, so they just left me and a few others to our own devices. Basically, we were unteachable. I think that's how we were. So I'm 55 years of age, so there wasn't any room for people like ourselves, or thinkers like ourselves, and which of course resulted in, you know, I'm dyslexic numerically.
At the moment.
Yeah, I love that you said that. At the moment, absolutely. But you know, what you stressed in there in your talk was the power of ADHD, the power of thinking differently, and that some of the greatest successes in the world
absolutely
have a different direction of thinking, a different direction of establishing their ideas, thoughts, and worth.
Exactly that.
And we'll go on.
Well, look. Let's backtrack. ADHD is actually, it's a term that irritates me because the assumption is these are problem children.
Yeah.
The assumption is all about the negatives, and the world is missing out. The interesting people in this world have got ADHD symptoms.
Yeah.
The people with the greatest potential have ADHD symptoms. So it's almost like, I don't know what car you came in today, but whatever car you came in, say you came in an Audi, an Audi is fine, it's balanced, but if whilst we are talking now, some engineers they're taking your Audi engine out, they're replacing it with a Ferrari engine. You go back to your car and suddenly the car's unmanageable. There's too much power.
Wow.
Too much power.
Yeah.
The tyres aren't fat enough, the clutch isn't strong enough, so you've got a total mismatch between the power of the engine and how you can get that power to the road. That's what ADHD is.
Wow.
That's why people go into overload. So ADHD is a term that really should be scrapped, should be torn up. But we've got another problem there. Our education system is wonderful in so many ways. Our teachers in the Western world are incredible. They work so hard. So it's a bit like a fire hose of information.
Yeah.
But if you can't absorb that information, if you can't take it in, if you can't retain it, if you can't recall it, what's the point?
Wow.
So what's the point of having an education system where you have amazing teachers, but nobody is checking, nobody has got the tools to check, can this child listen and learn, retain and recall? Can this child read and retain? So I can understand why these tools haven't been there. But for a few decades now, we have known what is happening neurologically that stops a child from reading easily and retaining it. What stops a child from listening easily and retaining it. So if teachers had access to these tools, now there's a lot of politics in this. I don't know if you want me to go. Do I go into the politics or not?
I mean, school teachers.
Obviously not.
No. I wish to, but I want to push into something you said there, because the school obviously is a big resonation with me. So school teachers are what to think, not how to think. Would we agree on that? Teachers are what to think, not how to think.
Exactly.
You know, and if you've got ADHD, we'll just use those letters.
Use them.
You know, your how to think is very different. It's very different to anybody else because of what comes with that broadband of thinking.
Yeah.
But, and it's safe to say that you're right, the teachers work hard, but many are just projecting lives from behind a book. It's not easy to have to accommodate.
Paul, if you're a teacher of 30 children, 25 of them are learning really well.
Yeah.
5 of them seem to be having a nightmare. They can't concentrate. They're disturbing the rest of the class. They can't take it in. Some of them are working hard. Some of them aren't working hard. But you've usually got 5 or 6 or 7 who really aren't taking it in.
Yeah.
Most teachers care so much they feel bad for those children.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And it's not the children's fault. It's not the parents' fault. It's not the teacher's fault. But who gets blamed? The teacher, at the end of the year, you had 7 children that didn't get to an establishment.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And it's not the teacher's fault. If a child, for whatever reason, is born without the ability to focus and concentrate and retain information. So I own a couple of private schools, and my passion is all about creating education that, in creating an environment where these children can learn. The schools aren't for special needs kids. In fact, we get an awful lot of children who are really high performers because we bring out even more of them.
Are we born or without the ability to think like other people, or do you think that's something we inherit from the? Let's say I come out of my crib and I'm thinking like Einstein. My parents are going to feel very inadequate. My mother and father would feel very inadequate if suddenly I come out and I started shouting, on algebra and things. They would think, as a mom and dad, I don't feel good enough now, because we effectively get dumbed down.
Well, can I talk about you?
Yeah, totally. Go
can I talk about you? Yeah. We've never met until this moment. Yeah. You were misunderstood at school.
Yes.
Seriously misunderstood. That was hard for you.
I was hurt in school.
Of course you were.
Actually, and broke.
And
emotionally.
And when you're misunderstood, when you can't understand what's going on inside your head, you're actually watching other children, seeing things be easy for them. They can read. Yeah. They can do their homework. They can be organized. They can remember. They can concentrate in class. They're never tempted to play with their pencil when they should be listening to all those.
Wow, Wynford, that makes so much sense to my past.
So when you are misunderstood, that is trauma. Trauma compounds the issue. Because when you have trauma, the brain actually develops abscesses or what seem to be like abscesses, that stops that part of the brain working. And it actually becomes a vicious circle. So the more you're misunderstood, the more trauma you have, the more issues you have in the brain, the harder working becomes. Now,
are we training our brain then to react to that trauma by becoming more dysfunctional? Well, because we are not being recognized.
It's the other way around. The trauma actually takes control of the brain, because every time we are triggered, let's say for sake of example.
Are we allowing the trauma though?
No, trauma takes over regardless. It's not an option.
Oh, is it?
So if you have a situation where your brain cannot understand, say a teacher asks you to read out loud in class. It's your turn. Paul, read out loud in class. What did you do?
I froze.
Of course you did. So when that happens, your amygdala, the part of the brain that looks after all of the trauma connections, say, hey, Paul, this has happened before. You better freeze.
So now I'm loyal to disappointment, though. Would you agree?
It's not an option. Don't talk about it as an option. It's not an option, because when the amygdala senses that something is happening that could be threatening to your existence, it takes control. It bypasses what you know, what you think, what people are saying to you. It hands over control to the oldest part of the brain. It's called the reptilian part of the brain.
Yeah.
And you are effectively in fight, flight, or freeze. And that's what happens to you. So whatever you know, whatever anybody's saying to you, it doesn't matter. The brain cannot even take it into account. You're put into a state where your brain floods with cortisol. You are ready to do whatever it takes just to survive. And that survival mode, that can last even for hours. So the very trauma that you had fills your brain with the stuff, the cortisol, that stops you from learning.
But Wynford, we can talk about it this way because we're talking about me effectively.
We are, yeah. But millions of others.
Yeah, truly. So I'm in class, they're saying, okay, Paul, read out, and I remember what that feeling was like. Because I'm at 13 years of age, still trying to learn my 2 times table. at 30 years of age. And I know every Monday morning we go in and we're going to stand up and we're going to call out the times table we've learned over the weekend. But also, now at 55 years of age, I look back and think, well, I was in charge of that emotion. Was I not? I was in charge of deciding whether I was going to freeze or not, because the teacher didn't make me feel that way.
You're not. No, your brain dictates that. Wow. We have a survival mechanism in the brain. So, if you live in Africa and you see a lion coming towards you, you have certain instinctive reactions. At home, if the stove is hot, you absolutely pull your hand away rather than let it go towards it. There's a million things that we have where the brain has programmed us to instinctively and immediately withdraw from danger and put us into fight or flight. So it's not a choice we have. You can't choose to have anxiety.
Wow, that's a statement. So you're saying that I am not choosing anxiety?
No.
People always say, have you got the right mindset? And
no, you can't tell somebody with anxiety, oh, it'll be all right, don't you worry. They can't even hear you. If they've got severe anxiety, the part of the brain that controls emotional connections takes over completely.
Wow.
So saying to someone, oh, you should pull yourself together, it's a waste of time. Wow. They can't even hear you. So all of those things that were happening in school, and by the way, your potential came out after you left school. And this is true. This is true for so many. Wow. So to me, symptoms of dyslexia, symptoms of ADHD, big flag, huge potential, if only teachers were given the tools to bring it out. Because, it's a gamble. People like you, for every 100 people with symptoms of ADHD, 5 go on to do huge success after they leave school, 20 end up in prison, and the rest will underachieve during their life. But the potential is there for all of them. So, so if I was the in charge of the economy in Britain, I'd be saying the biggest potential we have in this country, we got a load in the North Sea, but boy, we have got more in all of these people with symptoms of ADHD and dyslexia. It's massive. What's between our ears can be developed. Teachers should have the tools.
Do you think because the tools are not there, though, or the understanding or the training, whatever you want to say is not there, it's reaffirming to those with ADHD that they have ADHD, in the sense of, let's say that, and I have a philosophy, and I'm so stoked I get the opportunity to share this with you. I believe that that because of how we are taught to revise in school, subconscious messages we forget. So effectively they say revise, when effectively we can't, it's impossible to forget unless we choose to, or perhaps we could say a clinical illness, takes away the ability for us to remember. But in a sense, we can remember everything. So what if it's, what if the teacher said, okay, every time I went to school, she said to me, okay, you will remember everything that you've learned today. And I say that to myself every day in the morning. Then I say to myself before I go to sleep, I will remember everything that I've learned today.
Well, we're gonna have to delve into the neuroscience here because there's some complex stuff going on right here.
But do you see that? It's like, how come a teacher says to me, keep revising? Why? Am I going to forget that?
Well, but there's a big problem with that. Our education today, the way we're taught, the way we're tested and assessed, is all about regurgitation.
Recycling.
Regurgitate. So teach us. If we can recall it and put it down in writing, nice and neat, we'll pass the exams. And they tell us we're intelligent. Wrong.
Wow, I love you.
The intelligence is what you have, and you're doing it as we speak, and your listeners and viewers can watch you do this. You make connections in your brain. Mm-hmm. You make connections that other people don't think of. That's genius. That's intelligence. So you did badly at regurgitation, because for you to take information in and put it back out in exactly the same form without doing anything about it would have got you good marks in your exam, and you were very disappointed because you don't.
Yeah.
But the teachers were never mentioning the genius ability you have to make connections. So I'll be saying something, you'll be making a really interesting and important connection over there nobody else has thought of. Your viewers listen to you because you make interesting connections. Yeah. That's genius. that was never measured in the school that you went to. And that's still fundamentally true of education today. It's a fundamental flaw. So what's the value in your brain? The ability to make incredible connections, the creativity, the thinking outside of the box. Now, all kids with ADHD symptoms have got that.
Yeah.
As a nation that cares about our future generation, shouldn't we be changing our system to make that happen for every child? So for every Paul, there's another 100 that haven't achieved their full potential. They could, given the right nurturing and right encouragement. So education needs to be completely overhauled. You've got another connection happening right now. I can hear it.
You know, you're right, because my thought then was, okay, you know, now
he's amazing.
Oh, bless. Now the label called ADHD and all the other labels that come with it have suddenly, you know, it's almost fashionable, and it's growing. So this way that people think, this new directional or recognition of the importance of how people think different to how they thought 20 years ago, we're saying that this is going to be commonplace.
What's this?
Well, I say this, you know, people who go into the academic, you know, go into schooling and find that they can't think the same as everybody else. And that's not just the one child in the corner anymore. I mean, I was a whole classroom of me. You know, we were called the Remploy class, basically. And what that means is we were slower than the slow learners. We didn't go through school and community like everybody else. We just, from the age of 12 to 15, I was in this slow learners class. You know, and effectively, those classes could be more and more and more if they were seen as slow learners. But we are saying that, you're saying, no, it's not the case. And there has to be an adjustment now. There has to be a change.
There has to be. The education system is failing, not because of teachers. Teachers are amazing. You know, because so many children have failed in the past, the improvements to teacher training and teacher performance and teacher measurement has been fantastic. But it's still missing that massive trick. Teaching is only 50%. The other 50% is the ability to take in information. So let me say something very personal to you.
Go for it.
When you get something new, a new gadget, you've never read the instructions.
No. Don't read the instructions.
So listen. all the other children that did well in school, that did the learning, did the regurgitation, they have to read the instructions. You don't.
No.
Who's the bright one now, eh?
Do you know, that's so true. I find instructions half the time written and incorrectly.
You don't mind me being a bit personal.
Not at all.
But you're asking for it, Paul.
You're absolutely right. Because I look, and my wife, Debs, Paul, you always are able to find something wrong with any instruction or any product. So I know, I said, they're just not mind-friendly enough.
So let me just pull some of this together. I've been working with neuroscientists for the last 20-odd years. Started this because my own daughter, eldest of 4 children, could not learn.
Wow.
Same teachers, same parents, same nurturing. She couldn't read. She was like you, trying to remember a 2 and 3 times table when she was due to leave school.
Yeah.
So she started to become depressed, very depressed. And finally she attempted to take her life. Well, everybody thought I was successful, very successful. They thought, I've got nice cars and a plane and a boat and a big house and all of that. But I'd got a daughter that didn't want to live. So I took her to the best experts I could find, rolled up, thought I'm going to get some great advice here. And do you know what they said? She's got to learn to live with it. And I said, she's just made the biggest, loudest, most painful announcement to this world. She doesn't want to live with it. So that's when I sold my businesses and I started to focus totally on brain development. Why couldn't Susie learn? What was stopping her learn? Why could my other kids learn and not Susie? And I was very blessed. Serendipity made sure that I connected with a professor from Sheffield University that was absolutely in this space. He's still trying to show the world that we could get education different. There are things that can be done. So do you want a challenge? Are you up for this?
Let's do it.
Do you think he should take on a challenge? I'm just about to give him a challenge. What do you think? Do you think he should take on a challenge?
Let's go for it.
It's October now. By 31st of January, I could transform your ability to read and retain information.
You could, really? That is the one that gives me
This is on air.
That gives me anxiety.
I will solve the anxiety as well. Look, there's two things.
We can do this.
There's two things. Before I shake your hand on this, because if he shakes your hand,
so
you've got to hold him to it.
By the 31st of January,
you will find reading so much easier. You'll be able to read and retain information. And I'll also do the eye tracking for you, Paul, so you can see the transformation in what happens to your eyes.
Wow.
You will give hope.
I can't read. I fall asleep. My mind is
at the moment. Well, let me tell you why. At the moment, your eye tracking is very poor. You jump words when you try and read.
Yes. So, and I have to go back and reread them.
Exactly. Well, what's happening is your eye tracking is not smooth. Now, in schools, they have phonics and more phonics rammed down their throat. That's been government policy. I'm afraid it's dreadfully flawed. Yes, phonics are necessary. Up to the age of 7. I've never met a child that hasn't had enough phonics by the age of 7. Pushing phonics down your throat after that doesn't give you the skills you need to read. Major flaw.
Wow.
When you see what happens, you'll get angry that nobody told you this when you were 8, 9, 10 years.
I am already.
Yeah. Well, so your eye tracking is jumping around, and we can, if you want, if we go through this process.
I would love to, because when I read signs, they don't say what I read.
Well, we're going to show the world, and you'll give hope to, do you know, it's about 1 in 4 people, adults and children, struggle with reading. Wow. So you can give hope to a huge amount. We'll go through this. Look, I'm being very provocative here.
I'm cool. I'm in. Because here's the thing: is if we can put something out there that's going to create a difference in those people's and those children's and those grandchildren's, those great grandchildren's lives, we're in.
And it doesn't matter at what age. I was giving a talk in Southampton actually a few years ago, and a lady of 82 came up to me afterwards. She said, "I want to do your program, young man." I thought your eyesight must be poor. and she said, "I want to read and write before I die." So I said, "Look, it involves some exercises, some deliberately stimulating exercises for your brain." She said, I don't care. I don't care if I hurt myself doing your exercises because I am hurt more every day because I can't do what everybody else finds easy." Yeah. So I said, "I'll let you do my program." Well, 4 months later, she was on Richard and Judy, holding up the first letter written in her life.
Wow.
Her name was Liz Percy. You'll be able to find it there. And I got a call from her daughter 2 years after. She said, "Do you remember Liz Percy?" I said, "Yeah, how is she?" "She's reading and writing in 3 languages."
Wow.
So at 55 or whatever you are, you're not...
I'm 55, yeah, and I'm really excited by this opportunity, Wynford.
So let me just tell you, I've got to explain one more thing to you. So what is holding you back right now is your eye tracking is a skill that's never been finished off. We've got some clues about why, but that's a whole other subject. But those skills, if they haven't been finished off, it means your eyes aren't smoothly taking in the letters. Sometimes your eyes are going backwards when they should be going forwards, so you actually see the letters backwards, and so all of that messy stuff. I've got something else to show you in a minute. So when a skill like that's important, that you need all the time, isn't fully developed, your thinking brain has to get involved to help out. It's called conscious compensation. In the same way as when you're learning to ride a bike, you know what to do, you're thinking about it, and you're falling off. Your brain can't process fast enough. But if you keep riding, keep trying, eventually you don't have to think, and the back of your brain is doing all of the work, and you're riding, and you're whatever you're doing, talking, chatting, don't have to think. So learning involves moving from there to there, you're processing. At the moment, when you try and read, your processing is here, so this stuff is full of what shouldn't be there.
Oh, wow, I see that now.
And this is where your executive functions are. So your attention is here, your control of emotions, your control of impulsivity. So all of the symptoms that are associated with ADHD are caused here because the eye tracking skill and sometimes the auditory processing skill. So listening is hard work. So it's basic skills you need all the time, not fully developed, gives you a problem with the skill, and then uses the part of the brain which should be where your executive functions operate. So all of the symptoms that you have ever witnessed and felt and experienced can easily and quickly be solved. So how do you solve it? You develop deliberately using exercises. Your brain's actually very different to everybody else's, so it's a personalized program, but I'll give you a personalized program. It'll take you 10 minutes a day.
Oh, wow. That's all.
That's it. And in 31st of Jan, I'm going to stand up and be counted.
This is super exciting because, as you say, what you're doing is you're bringing the tools that are reachable for everybody.
Yeah.
You're bringing the ability for me to emotionally learn something that everybody can.
Yeah.
And effectively what it's doing is this can improve the quality of so many people's emotional lives.
Well, see, I think you've got a book inside you.
Well,
but the thought of getting the book out.
You're right. It is. The thought of getting the book out. I have something that's 3/4 written, which is the mechanics of the entrepreneurial mind. By the way, yeah, truly.
Oh,
so
wow!
I'm halfway, 3/4 way through, and I'm sure I'll have to rewrite again because I started it 10 years ago.
Oh well, what you're going to learn this next 3 months is going to add lots of bits to every chapter.
Well, then maybe this is what I've been waiting for to get the motor to go back into finishing the book, which is this experience.
Well, do you know Toya Wilcox?
Yeah, Toya Wilcox.
I met Toya and I worked with Toya, and she'd never written a book, and I had a very similar conversation to you. Toya's written at least 3 books since.
Wow.
Because it makes it, our good friend Scott Quinnell.
Okay, yeah.
Good friend of mine.
Yeah.
See Scott's story. Scott tells a story. BBC Wales covered this actually, and Scott said, when I read a book, I take a book on holiday. It take me 2 weeks to read the book. He said, I've just come back from the Canaries. He said, I took 3 books. I read one of them on the plane going over.
Wow. I just can't imagine. I have a book beside my bed. It's called Our Ancestors, and it's been there for about 3 months, and I've not been able to pick it up.
Oh, well, let's see what happens.
Okay.
We got a deal on the go here.
We are.
And what's lovely is you're going to be able to share hope. You're going to be living proof that either I'm a bullshitter.
Oh, I doubt that.
Oh, can I say that again?
Yeah.
You're going to be living proof that either I'm a con artist or there's a lot of neuroscience in what I'm sharing with you.
Oh, I'm really excited about this opportunity. Wynford, first of all, thank you for being you. Thank you for being the human being that you are.
Thank you.
And thank you for all the experience that you've been through to create this beautiful person in front of me here. That sole goal is to improve people's worth in how they think, their worth in how they can present themselves, not just, I don't mean in an academic way, but in having true value to how they think, because that's what was never given to me. Nobody valued except for my wife. My wife is my only soul that has brought me the belief that I think purely, that I think with confidence. And my job is to make Deb love Deb every day. That's my job.
I'm going to give you another challenge. I want you to interview Deb now about what you're learning today about yourself. Interview her at the start of this journey.
I will. I will.
And interview her at the end of the journey, and she can talk you through what has happened.
I'm going to do that. This has been beautiful. I mean, come on, innit? Wynford Dore. Dore? Is that correct?
Yeah, Dore, yeah.
Dore. I mean, I got an accent. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, so have I.
Yes, we both have. I haven't got an accent. You haven't. That's how we looked at it. But it's been amazing. What an amazing opportunity to meet such a wonderful mind heart. It's hard to find someone like yourself. Thank you for dedicating everything about who you are, spiritually, biologically, and mentally as a soul, to what it is you do. Thank goodness you went through all you've been through in life to get the tools, absorb the tools, and then influence them into what is going to be, an emotional economy change in people's lives. And I'm about to experience that. I mean, what can I say? Absolutely beautiful. Give me your hand, my friend. It's been absolutely bloody lovely. I loved it. Happy days. And I will catch you, of course, in a couple of minutes with my next guest. But what a man.